Welcome back to the Me in the Making podcast. I am your host, Melly Clay, and this is a show about introspection. It's about self discovery and about learning more about yourself, about the people around you, and learning about how you're becoming. And also on the show, I like to speak with guests to talk to them about their life journey, who they were when they were younger, who they are now, and who they are becoming. And today I have a guest on the show. This is Camille. Thank you so much for joining me, Camille. I met Camille, gosh, years ago, I think,
Mhm.
through mutual friends. And we had just happened to have a conversation at the end of last year. And I was like, Camille, would you like to be on Me in the Making? Like, you have a very incredible story, like very intriguing story, and I would love for other people to hear it. And she said yes. So she's on the show today. And yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
Yes, yes, and congratulations again. You recently got married. You're still in the 2 year newlywed phase.
Yes, we keep having a little discussion, not an argument, but I said today's our 11-month anniversary. And I said, we still have 13 more months of newlywedness. And he's like, no, we just have one more month. And I'm like, no, it's 2 years.
It's
And
two
you're going to do
years.
what I say. Yep.
Yes.
So we still
I'm
have
an
13 months. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when did I learn it was 2 years? I think I learned it was 2 years when I watched the Newlywed Game, and it was a part of the introduction of, like, how long these couples have been married. It has to be less than 2 years, so it's just stuck with me that newlyweds is considered for 2 years, yeah.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, well, tell me about getting married, and you've gotten married again, right? This is your 2nd marriage?
It is. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And his
How
as well. Mhm.
His as well. So how
Yep.
did that kind of come to be, and were you nervous about getting married again? Like, tell me your thoughts on approaching marriage for a second time.
Oh, I'd be happy to. So, as a matter of fact, he was at my first wedding. We've been friends for a very long time. We actually had mutual friends connect us, me and my past husband. So we had a pretty large friend group over the course of the last 41 years. Unbelievable. So when I got married in 91 and he got married in 2000, he was actually at my wedding. And then we kind of split apart friend group wise. We had one set of mutual friends that we both stayed in touch with, but we didn't really interact at different, gatherings or anything like that. And then he got divorced in 2004, I think it was, and I got divorced in 2007. So I still kind of knew things that were going on in his life. He still knew things that were going on in mine. But then we just met up at that original mutual friend's birthday party in 2008 and reconnected then. And I handed him my business card and I said, if you ever want to go see a band or go listen to live music, let me know. And it took him a little while to get back to me. I think he was just wanting to understand my intentions since he knew my ex and everything. And then he finally called me and we had our first date a little over 17 and a half years ago. Waited, got engaged. We had been together for over 16 years and just always thought we were happy the way we were and living life to the fullest. And maybe a couple of years ago, we were like, wait a minute, maybe it's time. The kids are all on their own and we're empty nesters. And I basically said, I think it's time. And he said, I agree. And so, yeah, so 17 years later, we did it and haven't looked back. It's just been amazing. And at this stage in our life, though, I have to tell you, it's perfect. Like I see other couples struggling to figure out who they are to each other again after they possibly had kids, purchased the home, had their lives, and then now are approaching, I'm 60 years old, approaching this chapter of their lives and saying, like, who are you? Where we're looking at each other and it's still very brand new. And I think if we, hopefully stick around for another 20, 30 years, it'll always hopefully feel brand new.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that is such a beautiful story. Like you two coming together again after years of knowing each other, but going off on your separate ways, doing your separate things with your own families, and then eventually reconnecting. Like, were you, so you said you kind of knew about each other as you were going through your life, your previous
Yes.
life, and then how did you get reconnected back again through mutual friends?
Yes, and the mutual friend was, there was a couple, and unfortunately, the very first friend, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't even be together. He passed away in,
Mhm.
unfortunately, in 2011, and
Mhm.
so we have shared that loss together, unfortunately. But we were at his birthday party, and they were a couple that would continuously update each of us on what's going on in each other's lives. So, just from a friendship standpoint, so Eric, my husband, he would raise money for St. Jude Children's Hospital and run in their relay, which was an overnight huge event where they would actually run from Chicago all the way to Peoria, Illinois.
Oh,
Over,
wow.
yeah. So during every leg of the ride in a big RV, one person from the team had to be on the pavement, or has to be because it goes on still to this day, has to be on the pavement at the entire length of time. So he would run several legs to help the team out, and then he would also raise a considerable amount of money. And so the mutual friend would always update me, oh, Eric's ride or run is coming back up, and all of those details. And then as I was having my children and things like that, they would also let him know, oh, Camille had a baby, and things like that. So we both knew like things that were going on, and just always had a mutual admiration for each other, but never would consider anything romantically, just because of our situations at the time.
Yeah, yeah, very much above board
Mhm.
friends, like, "Oh, that's really cool that this is happening in that person's life," but nothing untoward or anything until y'all were both available, and it's like,
Exactly.
"Hmm,
Mm.
what's
Oh,
what's his story right now?" Kinda like, "What's his deal?"
and that's what was so beautiful, in my opinion, about those first couple of years of being back or being together as a couple, was all of our circles coming together. So there were so many of his close friends that I've known over the years, and there were a lot of my close friends that he knew over the years. And so our wedding was just, it was just everything, because it was those worlds re-coming together, and how so many people, like the people that gave the speeches, got up there and said, I've known both of them for 40 years, telling stories, but we were in separate lives, but still together as friends. So the story was just absolutely beautiful, in that, looking around or looking at the photos now, how many of the people that attended have known both of us. There was a handful, I can count on one hand how many people were at that wedding that only knew the bride or the groom.
Mhm,
But when you
yeah.
wait till you're 59 or 60 years old, it's kind of the way it goes.
Yeah, like, the friendship circles kind of shrink a little bit, and you
Mhm,
mesh with your lives a little better the older you are.
mhm, exactly. And we've been together for so long, we've developed all these friendships along the way. So,
Mhm.
like our friends, our mutual friends, we've known since 2011, and that makes me crazy to think that I've known them for 15 years. And as time goes on, all of these different places we've encountered in our life, we've just grabbed friends along the way, and it's just it's a nice story. I love
Yeah.
telling it. Mhm.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you love telling it because I think that people should hear, and I think that it will give people hope to know that there is a second chance, and maybe you have to be, um, willing to be open to something like
Mhm.
that. Like, were you at all nervous about getting married again, or what were your thoughts around marriage, once
Um, didn't wanna do it. We both had said on many occasions, we have said, "Till death do us part," to another person, and that didn't happen. So we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to be fraudulent in
Mm.
anything that we have promised in the past that ended up not working out. So for many years, we were just very content, very, enjoyed our company, knew that we were going to be together forever, but did not feel like it had to be a sanctioned union. And when that thought process changed, because of the fact that I did not want to be somebody's wife again, and I don't think he wanted to be somebody's husband again, in a very quick moment, that turned to the
Hmm.
point where I wasn't going to be somebody's wife. I was going to be his wife.
Mm.
Wow. And I cannot even believe how much I love being married right now. Like, I never, and this is, we don't want to be like, talk about, dirty laundry or anything, but I never felt this loved and the
Mm.
center of somebody's world, and have not never felt like I wanted somebody to be somebody's center or for them to be in my center. And it's so renewed in a way. So whatever happened about maybe a year and a half, whatever it was ago, um, something happened, and it was just, I am ready for this, and it's going to look different than what it looked like back in 1990 or 1991 for me.
Yeah, well, that's really amazing that you are experiencing that, you are open to that, and you, went after it in a way, giving him your card and saying, "If you're up for this, like, why not?" You've got nothing to lose, in the beginning, and now you've been able to experience such a great love, all these years later, and it seems like you said renewed. I really like that word, like, it seems like it's new, it's fresh, it's like have you experienced healing, and now you've been able to, like, live out that healing, do you think?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for saying that, because it's exactly what I feel our experience is. And even as we were writing our vows, which to me, that was kind of like a little catch. I'm sorry about my dings that are going on here.
Oh,
Um,
it's fine.
the little catch that occurs when you realize that you've made vows before and now you're making a commitment, you want to be cognizant, I would think, to not dismiss what you did before, that this would be completely if it didn't work out before, how do I feel comfortable going and saying those same things again? It's like, yeah, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you, vice versa, whatever. So when we were writing our vows, we switched it up a little bit to where we basically said, will you continue to do XYZ? So what we did was we shared with our community that day all of the things we've been doing over the last 16 and a half years, in saying, do you commit to continue to do that behavior? And every time we said one of those things, will you be continuing to be there and be each other's, biggest cheerleader? We were both, we will. And there was nothing in there that interrupted or remotely referenced the church vows that I did, or the church vows he did years and years ago, till death do us part, sickness and health. We didn't go that route. We were saying, will you continue to stay in love for the time that you are together, as much as you're in love today and more? And that worked for us. So I didn't feel like we were changing what we did before, and essentially, but basically reviving it and renewing it.
Yeah, yeah, that's great, and being more conscious, would you say, of your vows and, like, aware of the weight that goes into it? Do you think you were more cognizant of that the second time around?
100%. 100%. And initially, when you're 24, 25 years old, getting married, which I was, he was actually 30. Um, Many, and I don't want to say young people, many people on their first time around may feel like you're just kind of being uh, farmed into everything, all wedding, this is the way you do it. Then you do this, then you do this, then you do this, which I was a part of that. I don't want to say I was a victim to that, because at that time in my life, it was the highlight of my life. It was something that I will always cherish, that excitement and the uncertainty and all of that, as it related to me and my wedding, and not necessarily to the person I was marrying. This time around, it became more communal and more deliberate and intentional. And we said to each other probably 1,000 times, this is our day, our day. When something would come up in the past, many first time brides or grooms may be like, we should do it this way. We should invite this person. We should have this dress code. We should have, should. This time around, it was, this is our day. This is how we want it. And I think that freedom that we experienced through the plans came across that day, because when somebody's like, what's the dress code? How should we dress? We're like, we want you to be comfortable. That was our world. Those things that mattered before, many of them didn't seem to matter this time around.
Mhm, mhm. Do you think that it's possible for people to experience that and be intentional with that on the first time around? Like, younger, or maybe even if they're not younger, but maybe the first time they're entering into marriage, do you think it's possible for them to have that approach?
I absolutely do. Getting married for the first time in 2026 is dramatically different than 1991. Now, I believe that there are those societal pushes and suggestions and all those things that first time married people probably are still experiencing. But I also think that there's more of a diverse acceptance of going a non-traditional way that did not exist in 1991. And I have older siblings, and um, three of them got married in a more non-traditional sense, in that they did it in my mom and dad's backyard. And then one went through the church and had it at and actually had it at a hall and things like that. But I witnessed way back in the 80s some non-traditional types of settings to that. But that was I think that was more the exception than the rule. Whereas now, every wedding I go to, and I'm still getting invited, thank goodness, is so different than what it used to be. I think it's game on. How can we be different now? And I cherish that, and I'm happy to see this next trend that's occurring right now.
Mhm. Yeah, hopefully people are, being intentional about the 2 of them, the couple. So, of course, like, the wedding, the external things, what their friends and family take in, that's really cool to be a witness to, but I think the main concern should be the relationship between the 2 people and, like, how they work together, how they move forward. So, if it's something where, people might think, "Okay, I need to do this because this is what my mom is expecting, or this is what the aunties are thinking," or whatever, that's fine, that's okay. But if it's at the sacrifice of the relationship between the 2 people getting married, then I think that should be evaluated before they
Absolutely.
do step into that, or at least be cognizant, because that could be a sign of maybe how communication might go when they're like, in the marriage, you know?
Exactly, exactly. And I also think that there's a certain level of, I want to say wisdom, but wisdom is such a weird thing, because I feel like we often correlate wisdom with age. And when I think of, certain people in my life that have been wise at very young ages, um, it doesn't really hold true. But I honestly believe that if we are going to be more intentional, you have to be wise. You have to be have a certain level of understanding of the importance of what this is. And sometimes I do believe that people get married because of the status quo and the fact that I've been with this person all of my friends, all of my family have this expectation that this is what we're going to do. And I believe that a certain level of complacency could actually be experienced prior to 10 years into the marriage or 20 years into the marriage, where it's like, all right, we're complacent. Let's figure out what's going on here. I believe in the dating world, long term dating, complacency can occur. And when that complacency happens, I believe a lot of times to knock it out of there, let's get married and shake this up. And I am confident that many times when that is the case, the marriage either is not feeling successful or ends up not being successful.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, kind of like when people say, "Oh, well, let's have a baby to, like, save
Mhm.
their relationship. Let's do something to shake it up," and it's like, some people feel like they have to do something extreme in order
Mhm.
to knock them out of the complacency, but maybe there's some little behaviors that you can start to enact that will kinda get you out of the that complacency.
Absolutely.
Um, and I say this as a single person who hasn't had super long-term relationship experience, but I've observed a lot. So I think like that piece of wisdom that you're talking about, I've sat back and I've watched a lot of different people in different stages of relationships, and it's interesting just learning about human behavior and cause and effect and everything. So I feel like if you are doing that, this show is kind of born out of me being observant and thinking about myself, thinking about others. And yeah, if you're in a long-term relationship and there's some complacency, yeah, it's probably not the best idea to do something extreme, because is that actually going to help you in the long run?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. You've mentioned before in our previous conversation that we were having, that now that you're married and you had been together for a long time before you got married, now it feels like, oh, like you're seeing new revelations and everything. Like, talk to me about that. Is it happening organically, or is it something that you two are doing intentionally to make sure that you are enacting those behaviors to kind of
Mhm.
stave off any complacency?
That's a great question because I I'm thinking it's organic. I love when the question comes up, "How's married life?" And I'm just like, "Oh my gosh," like, it's nothing like what I ever expected or had experienced in the past, and I ask myself, like, "Why is that?" Because when you've been together with somebody for over 16 years, there's a really good chance that you can get married and really nothing changes, right? It's just now it's on paper or insurance or whatever. And maybe that's why I hesitated in the past, because I didn't think that a piece of paper or an event, a ceremony could change how well things were going. And I think that was one of the biggest reservations. Was I felt like we had such a great thing going. The fear of that going away once the shift takes place. And so we had a long conversation about it one time and came to the realization it is going to change, but hopefully it's going to change for the better. And we're already good. So, we're good, better, best. And I, that's just what I'm experiencing. So I think either subconsciously and consciously, we are more intentional. We are more caring toward each other, more communicative. Um, we also have the benefit of being two people that want to be with that other person more than anybody else, which does not happen very often, or maybe happens later in life and maybe not so much because, girls want to go out with their girlfriends, guys want to go out with their guy friends, people want to spend time with their family, people love their work friends. Like, I love all those, but when it comes down to it, I can't think of a scenario where I wouldn't want him to be part of what I'm doing. Now, that doesn't mean that makes our relationship perfect, but for me and where I am in my life, that is perfect. And for him, we want to be each other's number one. And I never thought that that existed. I don't call it soulmate because I don't know exactly what that means, but to feel like this person wants to be with you instead of anybody else at any given time, um, to me, it's unheard of. So
Mhm.
I've been able to feel that, but I also think I'm putting forth actions to help that to continue. Does that answer your
Mhm.
question?
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like the both of you are having specific conversations around how do we make sure that after we get married, we will still be as good as we are now, maybe even better. You were especially conscious of that and working towards making sure that you were gonna be continuing to, like, build that even within your marriage. Even though you were together for 16, 17 years before that, it was like, "This is something new and different for
Mhm.
us. How do we make sure that we're on the right track?"
Exactly.
Yeah. So, you were mentioning, the 2 of you wanna be with him as much as he wants to be with you more than anyone else that you can think of in your life, and I was recently listening to this Modern Love episode, and, Mark I think it was Mark Duplass, the actor,
Mhm.
and his wife, they were on there talking about codependency, like, if their marriage, if they would consider it codependent, they had been together, I think married for, like, 20 years, together for 25, and they feel like if they're not in each other's presence, like, let's say he has to go off to shoot something, or maybe even if they're away for, like, 48 hours, he says that hour 36, he's looking around like, "Where's my wife? What is she doing? What's happening?" And, they're like, "Maybe that's codependency, but maybe that's how it, quote, unquote, should be in order for us to nurture this relationship and keep it going." So do you think you have something that kind of sounds like that?
Not really, which is kind of odd.
Yeah, okay, I wanna
Yeah,
hear.
because we are, obviously more work related than social related. So when it is a work related and we are apart, I'm excited about sharing some of the things that occurred during my day, my highs, my lows, and he feels the same way. But I I don't feel like I'm jonesing for him. Do you know what it's
Got it. So
very.
when you are apart, you are okay. You're like, "I'm excited to share these new life things with
Mhm.
Eric when I get home."
And I feel like my away from him life and him as well is our items to bring to the table to demonstrate to the other person more attributes that that other person can be wowed about. So if things are going well in my position and I have a successful day and things, where I'm possibly assigned to a task that's really a compliment to my competencies, I share that with him and I'm giving him more reasons to find favor with me. And maybe that's how we look at things is when we make decisions away from each other, or things are pointed to us away from each other, we want to share that. Even things like discovering um, a film or a new band or something, a new restaurant in Chicago, we are just like sharers. Like we love sharing stuff with each other. So that time apart is more like, what can you go do when you're over here? And what am I going to do when I'm over here? So we can bring that back together to experience it together.
Got it. That does sound healthier than the alternative. Obviously, I don't know their marriage, I don't know those people, but when they were explaining it, it did seem like I could see how this could be someone's ideal. But I see what you're saying when it comes to when we are apart, we're still living our lives apart, we're growing within, those parameters or whomever we're with, and then when we come back together, then it's, like, even more to share with each other, and then you get to learn more about each other, like, "Oh, this is how I responded in this type of a situation," and then you kind of learn more about that little pocket of, like, "Oh, I didn't know Camille would think that," like, that's something cool, something new that I learn about her now because she's had this external experience away from me.
Exactly. And I also think it strengthens our role when we're with others because we love the group setting. You saw us. I mean, like
Yes.
we know that beautiful, safe world of standing next to each other and being in a conversation with others. And that step away where you're over here in this conversation, this person's over here, like and that comes with a lot of time, I honestly believe. But I love our life when we're in social settings with others just as much as when we're alone. I mean, it's just so that's where I felt like the spin-off of what you were saying about Duplex was like this is like it's all good. So then when you do have those interactions with those other family members or friends or what have you, and you bring it back together as a couple, and then you're together with everybody. Um, I love our dynamic. I haven't felt once again this comfortable, and I'm one more. I'd rather hang with him and the guys than spinning off and just being with all the women because of the fact not he's in that conversation. That's kind of more where my conversations go. I'd rather talk more about art and music and film than maybe some of the more gender specific conversations that might occur. Um, but for what it's worth, our interactions on a social, and he's a little bit more like enjoys some of the more feminine aspects of conversation. So maybe that's what brings us in a little bit
Mm.
more because we're not as gender specific in terms of our roles in conversations. And the same holds true with how our home is. There's not, roles for him because he's the guy and roles for me because I'm the woman. But if it's something that is outside of my physical ability to do, like install some appliance or something, obviously. But we really share a lot of that. So I feel like that sharing continues on in our social conversations.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. I really like that. So when you were younger, before you got married, was that something that you thought you would always do? Or like what when you were younger, what did you think your adult life was going to look like?
Oh, that's a really good one. I didn't know. I think I kind of had this like I wanted to be independent. I wanted to travel the world. I often when I was a sophomore in college, I wanted to spend junior year abroad in Madrid, Spain,
Hmm.
and just basically live that life, that collegiate, foreign, meet different people, get to experience the world type of life, and had then met my uh, ex at the time. So I will never like say because of him I didn't have go and pursue that opportunity. But the way things went, I chose not to pursue that opportunity. Um, so I think young, that was kind of where I was going. As I was in my 20s, I just really enjoyed the freedom. I had my own apartment, even though I was, had my significant other. I really lived a pretty independent life with my partnership. And then once I was married, I actually took got employed with a cruise line and was on the road like Monday through Friday. So I then was able to capture some of those wants, that wanderlust that maybe I had when I was younger by going and running seminars at sea, going down to Miami, being on the ship. And then from there, I worked for a tour operator where I would have to go and learn our itineraries by going all over Europe and having all of those trips. So I was able to capture a lot of what I've always wanted to do and to learn the world without the expense of trying to do it with time off. And maybe with him, maybe it was subconscious that I enjoyed doing it through work, but I don't know if I would have wanted to do that as a couple type of thing at the time with who I was with. And then that brought me into when I started having kids. And so when somebody's like, have you ever been to Germany? I could speak extensively on my trips to the Black Forest and Munchau and Munich and things like that. Like I've been to Switzerland several times. So all those times when I was maybe in my teens and, very early age, like I really want to be overseas. I really want to experience different cultures and things like that. I have been able to do that. And then since Eric and I have been together, we have been fortunate enough to travel overseas several times. So going back to places I had been, through my earlier years, and he had traveled, extensively before we got together. So we're really bringing that together. But I think that was always beyond relationship. It was more about like just not wanting to feel stuck in one spot. And maybe that's where I went. I know my kids have wanderlust. I know they've traveled, all
It's
of them.
hereditary.
Yeah. Oh, it really is. My mom said, what is it? It's like Monday's child, and whatever I am, it's like Thursday's child is just full of wander. Like I want to wander, and that's what keeps Eric and I really happy because our first date, he was like, where do you want to go? Like, where in the world do you want to go? And it's just, it's fun. It really lends towards that love of life, right?
Yeah, and when you were younger, you had this thought of, I want to study abroad, I want to experience all these different things outside of where I live, and it ended up being you were able to achieve that because you were working at a cruise company, and it's like,
Mhm.
who would have thought that you would have gotten there from doing that? But you just really never know where life is going to take you. But then it boils down to the choices you decide to make. Like,
Mhm.
okay, what is this type of job going to give me the luxury to do? Oh, I can travel. Oh, that's satisfying, something that's something that I've wanted to do.
Mhm.
So maybe when we're young and we're thinking about our futures, it's like you might have a destination, but you don't really know how you're going to get there. And the interesting thing about it is learning how you're going to get there and then looking back and seeing, how did I get here? Like, how did all the things kind of attach in order to get me to a place where now you've been able to travel a lot? And that's something that you had always wanted to do, even as a young person.
And what you just said is very paralleling itself because you're talking about destination. You're using it two different ways. You're talking about physical destination, but you're talking about life destination. I love
Yes,
that. Hmm.
exact. Thank you. Thanks for catching that. Yeah, because you really don't know. And, me in the making, this show is all about learning about people's journeys and how it's never linear. It's never a straight
Hmm.
line from this point to this point because things always get in the way, whether it's stuff happening with your family or stuff happening with yourself internally, the economy. You just never know what is going to come in and derail you in a way. But like when you were with that tour company or the cruise company, did you specifically choose it because you knew you could travel, or was that a perk that you found out along the way?
Kind of both. I had always been gravitating toward sales, so I worked for a radio commercial sales company for several years, and then left there and worked for a paper for a short amount of time. But I was actually selling the space in the paper for the travel section. So I was actually out to lunch with my cruise rep, and he was the one that was like, Camille, you should apply for this job or what have you. So it was kind of like I was recruited towards that. But the travel with that was more of a 10-state territory. And then I would go down to Miami maybe once a quarter and get to go on the different cruises. So I actually got to learn a lot about the Midwest. I was going to Minneapolis, I was going to Omaha or Indy or whatever it was. So that kind of travel kind of brought me there. So it just kind of happened on me. And so did the tour company. So then when I was approaching the tour company with the cruises that we were offering, they asked me if I had a passport. And I'm like, no. And they're like, get a passport, you need to come to Switzerland with us. And I'm like, I have a job and I'm good to go. And they were like, no, you need to come work. So it was through some recruitment from
Mm,
when I'm already working a job that somebody was like, we want you over here. And, I actually talked to my mom about it. I remember being in her kitchen and I was like, yeah, they want me to get a passport and they want me to go to Switzerland. And it's a tour operator for senior citizens. And my mom's like, that sounds awesome. Like, that sounds like everything you would love. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, and I'm saying this to my mom, who at the time was probably like maybe 67, maybe said 69. I'm like, I don't want to work with senior citizens. I'm like, they're all like really old or whatever. And she's like, we're not talking grandma's age. We're talking like me and dad's age. Like, these are the travelers that they're targeting. And she's like, just go on the trip, see how it goes. I went on the trip and I got to see like what our clientele was, which is my age right now. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it was just meant to be. So I've
yeah.
had some amazing mentors in my life by being the youngest of five and having incredible parents and having incredible brothers and sisters. When I've hit some of these crossroads where I'm asking their opinion, because there's been many times in my life I didn't ask and maybe I should have, but when I have asked, the advice and the mentoring has just been incredible. And I'm so thankful she's not here with us any longer, but I'm so thankful to her for steering me to just go on that trip from this day forward. I mean, like, Switzerland's one of my favorite destinations. Like it just became such a change in my life that was so needed. And I have my mom to thank for that.
Yeah, and she saw that in you, she said, "Oh, it sounds like everything that you would want to do."
Mhm.
And that's lovely when your family can really step in like that,
Mhm.
be a
Mhm.
support, and see things in you with opportunities that might come your way that you might not even see for yourself. So having that community is amazing. And if their family maybe isn't as close, like try to get other people around you who you can see the good in them, they can see the good in you, and you can lift each other up because this is a hard life. And you know people, I think it's good to get that outside counsel. Like, I have a therapist. Sometimes it's good to, like, ask your friends questions, ask your family, the people who you can trust.
Yes.
"What do you think about this for my life?" And kinda see what they say and take it with a grain of salt if you need to, but kind of when they give you the advice, listen to it at least
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
see if it's something that you can take because, like you said, she's like, "Oh, go on this trip," and now you've gone to Switzerland, it's become one of your favorite locales, and
Mhm.
you have that community, your mom, and you said you're the youngest of 5, so are you still close-knit with your other siblings? Like,
Oh,
how
incredibly.
is
So
younger to
there,
you?
yeah, there's 7 years between me and my next oldest, and then they're all 2 years apart. So my oldest, when she was in seventh grade, that's when I was born, and she remembers like sitting on the sofa feeding me her bottle while she was studying history. So I've had four incredible influences that, although I didn't have close in age siblings to play with, I was always really well taken care of, exposed to more adult oriented um, things like film, art, music, but brought down to my level to discuss it instead of expecting me to intellectually grasp like concepts that were beyond my age. So they've always been there to that degree. We actually have a trip scheduled later this month. Once a year, we get together. We call it the sibling weekend. And us and our spouses, we all find a destination that's equally distant from everybody, and we spend the weekend together. So we're doing it the last weekend in June, and we'll be in Dayton, Ohio. So yeah.
I love that. That's such a nice tradition, an intentional tradition. The age gap that you have between your eldest sibling and you is about the same that I have with my eldest sibling. I'm the youngest of 3 and or not 3. I'm the youngest of 4. I'm thinking I have 3 sisters. I'm the
Mhm.
youngest of 4, and it's nice to, like, have that elder sibling support because, they've gone through some of the things that you're maybe going through at the moment. You could talk to them about different things, and they also see you as they they feel like they're my protectors, you
Mhm.
know? I'm the
Mhm.
baby and they look after me, and it's really nice to just have that built-in support.
Well, and it's unconditional love, and I always felt it, but I didn't value it to the degree that I do right now. And when my father passed away in 1997, I was 31 years old, and it was like now all my efforts were in my mom, right? Like I like half the love that I am given in this life just got cut, like
Mhm.
between a mom and a dad and how much love they give. One really important person that loved the bleep out of me is gone now. So I'm like, okay, mom, now I love you more because I'm taking all that love for dad and putting it in you, and you're doing this back to me. So there was just such an emphasis on my mom from 97 until she passed in 19. And I grew to appreciate and love her so much more. I always loved her, but after losing my dad, who I was so much closer to, just really, we became so amazingly close. And then when she passed, it was like, okay, Sibs, like it's up to you. And so they always loved me and I always felt it, but we have this mutual unconditional love that has been exhibited through the loss of losing my dad, then losing my brother in 2006 and losing my mom in 19. The way we come together is just, it's incredible because of how we've had to work through this loss and this grieving and the respect and um, just all the dealings with my mom and her estate and her condo and all of those details. I get i get emotional when I think of the respect and the way that the family, we have all dealt with it. Me being the youngest, I was basically just trying to supply like laughter. Like my role wasn't nearly as tough as my oldest sister who was handling all the financials, or my other sister who actually cared for my mom and her last months. Like i I never felt shamed for not carrying my weight or whatever it is, because we all know what our wheelhouse is and we all know where our strengths are. And there were things, I guess, that I was doing that was helping them to complete their tasks. And I'm thanking them all the time for that, because it's not easy. And you can go through life possibly not liking your family, but you got to love them. It feels really good when you like them and love them.
And I'm so happy to hear that after so many losses, close losses, that you all have been able to get closer, tighter knit, because I just know that with grief, it's something that can really tear people apart, especially close familial units. Like,
Oh, yeah.
just choose to kinda walk away from each other, but I'm happy to hear that you've been able to be intentional, there's that word again, and say, "Okay,
Mhm.
mom, I'm here for you now. Siblings, we're in this together." And that intentionality can go a long way, because then that other person knows that, okay, Camille cares, and she's making sure to communicate that to me, so I know, and I know that I can go to her for support, etc. Because I think sometimes, like, it's easy to not say how we feel about someone else,
Right.
and it's hard sometimes to know if you're struggling with something like that. It's hard to know if the other person cares for you, so, like, expressing that, I think, can go a long way,
I
especially
agree.
dealing
Mhm.
with grief, yeah.
Mhm.
Wow, such a what a cool just story you have, like I was saying before. This is something I've been asking all of my guests in season 4. So, your 20-year-old self, if your 20-year-old self could see you now, what is something that she would be amazed about?
Um, how completely immersed I am in the city of Chicago, just enjoying Chicago, getting out there, knowing the neighborhoods, knowing the streets, enjoying the restaurants, the live music scene. I think that that's something I would want to show her, that being 60 is not old at all. And um, just being able to see that I'm living my best life.
Life goes on after 40, right?
Oh my gosh. My 50s were really, really great. I have to say that was my favorite decade. So I'm new to this 60 thing, only 3 months in, but I'm liking it so far.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I'm in my early 40s, and I if I think 60 is like that's old and everything, then that means I only have 20 years to do. It's like I don't wanna put myself in a box, as long as I'm alive, I want to be doing the things that I want to be, and I wanna feel like I'm alive.
Yes.
So, I think society sells us your youth. Your youth is the most important thing, and that's all that matters, and you have to do everything in your youth, and if you don't do everything before you're 30, like, you're behind the curve, and that's just a lie, you
Yeah.
know?
And there's so many great, I'll see it like on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, where it actually shows people of prominent people that have actually done some amazing things in their life, that say one actor, their first film was at 58, or like people that we know of, many of them didn't even start doing what they're known for until, 10 years ago in the 50s or what have you. So you're absolutely right. And there's so much information out there. There was, what was the film? Prelude to a Kiss. Did you ever? There's a play and then there's a film, but I think
Okay.
it's Meg Ryan and I can't remember who the guy is. But the premise of the film is that their personalities got switched. So she's a young, beautiful woman, and she got put into this old man's kind of like Freaky Friday, but it's done, I think, a lot better. And so here she is. She's the personality of this really old man, and she's talking to her husband or whatever. And he finally, understands like what she's going through. And I know it sounds long, but and he says, he goes, what is the one thing like that stands out being in this old man's body? And she's like, I understand the importance of flossing your teeth. And I was like, I remember that. I don't know how the line went exactly, but I thought about that. Like, you don't realize it when you're in your 30s, that you're doing something really, really good. That by the time you hit 60, you're going to be like, yay, me, that I actually did this every day. And flossing your teeth is one of those things. And, stretching or, like making sure you have a good sense of balance or whatever. Those are all those things that everything I'm reading now, like, these are the things you got to be doing for the next 10 years to make sure when you hit 70, you are going to be way okay. I'm like, I've been doing these things already. So I got that head start, and you just can continue on that trajectory. And the same holds true for how you eat and exercise and even how you treat the planet, right? Like, if you don't wait, I mean, what do they say? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. It's the same thing. If I haven't been doing it already, I'm going to start this today. But I'm also patting myself on the back. I have been doing this. And those are those aha moments that you have as you reach a certain age.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you for coming on here and being on the show. And is there anything that you wanted to say that we didn't cover? Anything you wanted to
No, you've
share
been
out?
very thorough. I like it. You really lobbed me into like being able to converse. So it means a lot to me. Thanks for making it so fun.
Of course, thank you. And, let people know if you want them to follow you on social media, if you're comfortable with that, and I can put it in the show notes.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, no,
Appreciate
no,
it.
no.
Oh,
Tell if you want people
okay.
to follow you on social media, you can let them know here.
Okay. No, probably not. Like, not right
Okay,
now.
listen,
Okay.
I respect that. You're like, you can re-listen to this episode as much as you want, but don't find me on social media. You're gonna be off living your life with Eric. I
Yeah,
respect it 100%.
thank you. I appreciate you so much. Looking forward to seeing you in person this summer.
Yes, yes, it's gonna happen multiple times. I already
Yeah,
know.
good, good, good,
Thanks,
good.
Camille.
Thank you.
This has been another episode of the Me in the Making podcast. Please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Tell a friend, tell a family member. We all deserve to grow and change and become our best selves, whatever that might look like to you. And please connect on Instagram at Making Me Pod, on TikTok. You can email me at melly@makingmepod.com. I would love to hear from you. Let me know if you want to be a guest on the show. And yeah, I'm just having such a great time. I'm so happy to have been able to launch this video episode for you all, and come again. Bye.